Sure. Hey, so my name is Gareth. I am a musician. I stay in Isleworth in West London, which is how I know quite a few people on this call. Um, I play many instruments. So I started off my sort of musical journey playing drums. I think I was about 3 years old when I started, taking my grandmother's cake tins and things like that and just hitting them with color pencils. Because my older brother sings and plays guitar as well, so we've always sort of been doing a lot of music together from a very young age. I got my first guitar at about age 8 or so, from my uncle and aunt for Christmas. I took piano lessons when I was in school. But like drumming was always sort of my main thing for a long time. And then with my brother being a singer and guitarist, when I was old enough to join a band, um, where my parents let me join a band, essentially, I joined his band. So I was about 17, I think, when I started performing together with him. This is back in 2005. And along with the band that I was in, so we were called 12th Avenue because that's sort of where that's the street that I lived in where we used to rehearse. We used to rehearse my parents' garage. Um, and so with that band back in South Africa, I managed to do quite a lot of different shows. We released 4 albums. We had radio play there. Um, had some very good opportunities as well. We played a lot of festivals. We toured all over South Africa. We went to Namibia and Malawi as well to play shows there. We got to be a support slot for an American band called Seether. So we did 4 really big arena shows with them. Um, and then my that band kind of like fell apart a bit. My brother ended up going on to South African Pop Idol and came second place in the show in 2011. And so he launched a music career that way. I stayed on as his drummer. So got to play more shows, really good ones with him as well, more festivals and things like that. We got to open for Bon Jovi in 2013 in Cape Town Stadium, which was absolutely wild.
Anyway,
It was probably the most fun half hour I've had on stage ever. And yeah, in 2017, I moved here to the UK to just pursue some different things, um, and sort of stepped back from music for a while. And then I think it was about 2021. I mean, I didn't step back completely from music. I continued doing music in church. Thankfully, Dave sort of inspired me to carry on doing that, and sort of roped me in. Started with drums, and eventually that led to sort of leading worship as well, and singing and playing guitar. Um, and sort of through that. I mean, like he took me one night, a couple nights, to the Red Lion in Isleworth on. So they've got a really nice Wednesday jam night, an open mic, and so the two of us performed there a few times together, and got to know some of the people there, and it was really good, And I thought like this is really fun. I enjoy this. Kind of stepped back a bit more, and then I got to about 2021, and I thought I really want to start doing music again in my own capacity, and I wasn't really sure how to do it, and so I figured I'm gonna pick up a guitar and plays guitar and sing, which is something I never tried to do before by myself. And so I thought, you know what, let me go to the Wednesday Jam and give it a go there. So I practiced a couple songs, went up there and did it, and I realized that I could do it. And then from there, I started getting back into songwriting. And so since then, I have written quite a lot of original material. I released my first EP last year. Last year? Yes. I'm trying to think what year we're in right now. It was last year, yeah. Last year, November, I released my first EP. Um, so that's on like Spotify and all the streaming services now. And I'm currently writing and recording a full-length album. So I've got about 5 songs complete right now, that I've recorded. They're not mixed and mastered just yet. My brother back in South Africa helps me with all that stuff. Um, but I've recorded 5 of the songs. I'm busy recording another 5 now as well to try and get like a 10-song album together. Um, yeah, that's kind of
brilliant.
where I am
Yeah, that's
musically
good.
now.
You've answered about 3 or 4 questions all in one go, which is brilliant.
Okay.
I was hoping Bon Jovi would get a mention. I was wondering if that
Okay.
was a bit of a highlight.
Yeah.
But you're sort of following the Dave Grohl, moving from behind the drum kit to up at the front, and then kind of recording all instruments in the process as well. But
Yeah.
you're yeah, uh, and you um I know that you do that as well, but you still play drums, obviously, and sometimes for different bands and things as well. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, I do. So currently, I'm playing in another local band called Funky Nature. It's with a friend of mine, Jason, who I actually met at St. John's in Isleworth quite a few years back, because he used to actually help with worship there as well. Um, so I'm playing drums in that band, and it's completely different to my solo stuff that I've done, and anything else I've already done as well. So when I was in 12th Avenue and with my brother, his name is Mark, so it's Mark Haze, that's his solo project. That was all kind of like, I'd say like modern rock style, and then my own stuff is kind of acoustic rock with a bit of punk and folk and emo, because I'm of the sort of millennial generation, so I kind of that's emo and punk was sort of bred into me in the early 2000s. Um, and then with Funky Nature, it's completely different because that's kind of like indie and hip hop and soul. Like there's actual rapping going on in it, which is very different to what I normally do. But in terms of being able to play drums with it, it's so much fun. It's like my favorite style of drumming to play to. So it's quite cool to be able to have very different styles on different instruments as well that I get to actually enjoy.
Um, how do you sort of wear your faith in the spaces that you move in, Gareth? I know we've talked about this sort of thing a lot,
Mhm.
but it's probably better coming from you in terms of. I know faith is real to you, but is it there in the lyrics, or is it in the way that you carry yourself, or in the conversations?
I'd like to say it's in all three of those aspects. So my lyrics in my original songs are not necessarily all sort of like faith-based lyrics. I mean, a lot of what I write about is really just about my own life and things I've experienced, or just things that are going on in the world. I kind of take inspiration from anything around me. But if if the idea of faith or God comes up in a song, I don't shy away from it, because I feel that it's a part of who I am, So I mean, I think if anything that I want to do with music, especially with my own original songs, is I would never want to be like inauthentic. I would always want to just to be honest about who I am and kind of just wear my heart on my sleeve with that. So yeah, I've got some songs that do talk about my faith. And I think just in terms of like my performance, I've always kind of wondered, like if I'm not doing music in like a, worship in church capacity, how do I actually still bring God into the picture, and not make it about myself? And it's something I've kind of wrestled with for a long time, because, I think that I've played in other bands and things like that where like the music was not necessarily positive. Um, and I played in like places where there were, lots of people are sort of getting drunk around you, and it's a bit of a it doesn't feel like it's the most like godly atmosphere, if you can put it that way. It's like it's almost the opposite sometimes. And so I kind of wondered like how do I make this sort of an act of worship as well? And it took me a long time, but I sort of came to the conclusion that if I'm able to bring joy to people through music, if I can brighten somebody's day by singing a song to them, or they can maybe just it's a way for them to sort of, decompress from a stressful day if they come to watch a gig, then I think in that way I am doing God's work by, showing people that, life doesn't always have to be tough, and you can enjoy yourself and enjoy this and feel those positive things in a bit of a negative world. Um, and then, hopefully sometimes conversations come out of that as well. I've had a few conversations with audience members and fellow bandmates and things like that, just about why I do music, and then my faith comes into it that way. So yeah, they all kind of like link into each other in that way, I think.
Are people sometimes surprised that you are a Christian? Because in a dingy bar in
Yes, yes.
at
They're
past curfew or
very
whatever. Yeah.
very often. There's been a lot of times in my life where people have kind of said to me like, I didn't realize that you go to church. Because I mean, I don't typically look the part, you know. Like I've got a lot of tattoos. And like I mean, I try to speak nicely, but like I'll admit, like I swear quite a lot sometimes, you know, and like I drop a fair few F-bombs every now and then, and you know, I know it's not really the right thing to do. So I think sometimes like when people hear it
Okay.
or see that, they will not necessarily think like, oh yeah, there's a Christian guy, you know. Um, but I try and let that come through in like my attitude towards people. I, you know, obviously try and be kind to people and love people in the best way that I can. Um, and I think that's kind of where people have sort of felt that, you know. And then when I tell them about my faith from that, then they kind of put two and two together and like they say, oh, okay, that makes sense, like why you're nice to me, you know. And it's like, yes, I'm well, good because Jesus says I must be nice to you, so that's why I'm doing it. You know, it's kind of like that.
No worries. I've been asking this question of each person we've had, but uh, if you have a day job, which in it itself does it involve creativity? Well, you can answer. But if you won the lottery tomorrow, what would you do with your time and money?
Ooh. Yeah, I do have a day job that's not it's not particularly creative. It's in IT. The industry I work in is a creative industry, so I work in the video games business. So like the product that we create and sell is a creative product. You know, it takes a lot of people um who have good original ideas and that put that together. My side of that job is not particularly creative in IT. I do systems administration. Um, but I think that if I yeah if money was no object and I could just do what I wanted to do, um, I think I would probably do something like start a music venue or start like open up a recording studio or something like that, where I would be able to work within a musical capacity. Um, and I'm not really much of a teacher, but I think that maybe just trying to think about now, I'd look at maybe somehow investing time and money into like music education in some way because I think that there's you know I see it a little bit less so here in the UK, but I know that definitely coming from South Africa, um, there are a lot of people who I think have a lot of potential and a lot of talents, and they don't get the opportunities to use it because maybe they don't have the money to buy a good quality instrument, or they don't have the money to you know to get lessons from a professional, and you know, um, so I think like if I was able to help in that way, that you know I could give kids you know the opportunity to just even just to try out instruments, you know, like even just have a space where you could say, you know, I've always wanted to learn the cello, but I could never afford to buy a cello. You know, well, here's a studio where we have a cello and we have a professional cellist who can show you a few things. Maybe people can discover that like that's something that they're good at, and then you know there maybe might be a way then from there to get them into it. Yeah.
By the way, if others have questions for Gareth, you can whack them into the chat and we can try and ask them. And also, um, I've saved one question which I wanted to open as like a can of worms, really, but it's to do with what AI is doing to live music or music
Uh,
generally, and see what
oh.
Gareth's thoughts are on that. But maybe we'll pray for Gareth in a minute, and then we'll come to that bigger discussion. But Gareth, just on that on what you were saying. You know, one of the things that we've talked about, I know Jason, who you play with, also talks about is the decline in spaces for live music.
Mm,
That the number of small venues has halved in London in the last 15 years, or something like that.
yeah.
And you know, we've talked about sometimes it's tricky to get gigs, and it's always you know changing, having to clunk through the gears, and the guy doesn't get back to you, and then the pub
Mm,
closes or whatever. Um, you know, so it feels as if there might be a real need for space, like you know, almost like what you would do with your time and money
mm.
to open up spaces for people to be able to kind of get to grips with music. Um, what? what are the benefits of that? Maybe even in your own life. How has music helped you? And therefore, if we were to
Mm.
magically open lots of live music venues, how would that help people?
Well, I think that for me, I mean, I kind of hate the cliched saying that I've seen a lot of people have, there's something that people post on Facebook quite often. We're like, oh, music is my therapy kind of thing. And I mean, like, I've been to actual therapy as well, in my life for personal issues. So like, I can kind of weigh up each one. But like, I think music and being able to perform music and it is a form of therapy in a way. I think it's a great way to really get your feelings out there. And I think also for the listener, if I flip it back on itself and say, somebody who's in the audience watching somebody um sing about their life and their experiences, there's there's a certain sort of like relativeness that relativity, I think that's the word. Sorry, that you get out of that. You can kind of see like, oh, I can really relate to what that person is feeling because that speaks to me, and I think that's often. Yeah, I feel for me that, because I've had people come to me after gigs and say like, oh, that song that you sang really meant a lot to me. Or that song reminded me of someone else in my life that I knew. Um, and I think for me that's the biggest thing. I think to see that like what you're doing actually has an impact on someone personally. That you've actually made some kind of a connection with someone else that you don't necessarily know. Um, I feel that that's probably the biggest gift that being able to make music has given me.
Thank you. Um, you mentioned you're recording an album, and are there any other projects? And also, just basically, how can we pray for you? Put in the WhatsApp group your socials, and we'll get people to pay
Yes, I
attention
will
to
do
what
that.
you produce out there. But in terms of for yourself and for your creativity, what are things that we can be praying for you? What's coming up in your life?
Um, I think in terms of things you could just pray for me in terms of creativity. I think, like you mentioned, yeah, there's a real decline in the number of places that you can play at. So I th I feel like this year. I mean, I feel like every year I almost feel like it's getting harder and harder to try and get gigs. But like, I feel like this year it's particularly been quite difficult. I haven't played nearly as many gigs this year as what I played in previous years. Um, and I don't feel like it's for a lack of trying. I just think that there are less places out there to do this at. There's less places that will actually sort of pay you fairly. So I think for personally, if you could pray that I can try and get more opportunities to actually get my music out there, I would really love that. And then I think just if we had to just sort of pray for the music business in general, I think that it just to have better opportunities for artists who are not already established. I think there are a lot of people out there who have a lot of talent, who have a lot of drive, and it's just a very difficult business where you are competing with multi-million pound record labels who are just dominating the industry with a few artists. And um, yeah, I think it'll be great to have people get those opportunities to just shine.
Thank you so much. And that I do want to ask one more question. Well, it's Naomi's question, which she's put into the chat really. Naomi's saying, "So cool, you've released your EP." I'm okay to read this, Naomi. I mean, you could read it yourself, I know, but I'll just read it. Is number of streams your goal, or is it just like the love of music? If number of streams, how difficult, easy have you found pushing your music out there, especially with the importance of social media? And we touched on some of these questions, particularly around Francis's interview a couple of weeks ago. Do check out the videos, everybody. But I know that's a huge question as well. But do you want
That's
to
a good
just comment
question.
briefly on that?
Yeah, sure. That's a really good question. So yeah, n number of streams. People often refer to them as vanity metrics. To which I agree with to some extent, but I'm not gonna lie. Like it is nice when like lots of people stream your song. Like it's a nice feeling. So I've been quite blessed to work with a pretty good little PR firm who are actually based back in South Africa. So it's the same PR firm that my brother's currently working with on his things. And that has helped me achieve like quite a decent number of streams. I mean, it's still small in terms of, like it's not millions by any means, but it's more than I was expecting. And so I'm really grateful for that, but I don't think that's the reason for doing it at all. Um, I kind of just my goal essentially when I released an EP and also when I'm going to release an album was really just to have it there, just to sit, not to say that I've done it, but like I think that I've always kind of felt that if you're going to create music, you should also then share it. I've never quite understood, I've met other musicians who've kind of said like, well, I really only do this for myself, and I don't ever really want to perform it or anything like that. And I mean, yeah, to each their own, but I kind of feel like if you have it, why not share it? If or if you have the ability to share it, because I know not everybody's necessarily able to have access to a studio or anything like that. Um, but I think that like, if you get the opportunity to record your music and you're able to release it, then do it. It doesn't matter whether only 10 people listen to it. 10 people listen to it then, and maybe those 10 people enjoy it. And if they do enjoy it, then you've done something great for them. You've brightened their life in some way. Um, so yeah, that was kind of my goal, just releasing music, was to sort of just have it out there and know that I've actually used the opportunity that I have. Um, the streams are just that's just a bonus, to be
Mm.
honest. I do push to get more streams. So I mean, obviously I work with the PR firm. I have spent money to have them pitch it to playlists and things like that to try and get my music to get out there. Um, but that's also more just for the goal of trying to get more shows and trying just to do better shows and have more fun doing it. And social media, I mean, I hate social media. Like, yeah, honestly, like I've got all the accounts and I post on it and things like that. But honestly, like if I didn't have to do it, I wouldn't. It just feels, I know it's a necessary thing to do, but like yeah, I just feel like there's so much emphasis put on it today, even by record labels. I mean, I've heard about people, who they've got the you know they've got people coming to their shows, they've got the number of streams, they've got all those things. But if their follower count and their engagement on something like TikTok is not to the record label's liking, they won't get signed. And I find it so strange because I know that like years ago, you got signed to a record label so that they could do all those things for you, so they could then like get your music out there to more people. Whereas now they're almost expecting you to be a superstar online already and go viral and be popular. And then all they're going to do is just capitalize off what it is you're already doing. So I feel that the industry's kind of been flipped on its head a little bit, and I am hoping that somehow it just aligns itself again. Because I don't really want to be making TikToks. Like it's not my thing. I don't enjoy it very much.
Thanks, Gareth, and for sharing honestly as well.